Welcome to the reality check. No matter what I can do, last minute camera adjustments, I still don't make myself look right. But we're not here to look at me. I brought my special host, the Kool-Aid Man. Now, this week, it's only Tuesday, and we've already had a lot. We've been under attack. Woke up this morning to 10,000 emails. Been getting emails from everywhere, people trying to open up accounts for stuff. PayPal account totally empty, somebody charging it all over the state of Florida. So, are they coincidence, or are we under attack? I'm sure it's a personal attack. People don't like the, when you speak out on the show, people don't want to hear what you have to say. They can't debate you, so they try other alternatives. And for those of you who know, and for those of you who don't, is they can push all they want. I just push back a little bit harder. Now, on to the big stuff. Let's see. Super Bowl, I guess we can go over that. That was the big game of the weekend, end of the football season. Eagles won, so good for them. Bad for the Patriots, of course. Obviously, they weren't winners. Nothing surprising there. The one thing that I would say is that I was saying, if they're not going to hit Foles, they're not going to win. And to see literally no pressure. Nick Foles didn't even get touched. So, the biggest loser, really, are the Detroit Lions. That's going to be their new head coach. It was the worst defense in Super Bowl history. The Eagles' offense, they're good. They're not great. And especially when you take Carson Wentz out, his escapability, and you bring it to Nick Foles. Nick Foles is an accurate passer when he's not pressured. So what do you have to do? You have to get pressure. The fact that after getting burned consistently, and Jeffries is making catches and whatnot, Malcolm Butler, whatever, how do you not send the blitz? How do you not blitz somebody and get some pressure? You're getting torched anyway, so might as well take the chance, blitz, and maybe you hit him once or twice, and that'll change the whole dynamic of the game. Literally, there was almost no time that Foles looked like he was under pressure at all, and there it is. Biggest loser, the Detroit Lions. Other football things, of course, the Colts have no head coach, so now they're on the lookout. And in other Colts news, Edwin Jackson killed by an illegal alien drunk driver. It's weird. Not on the news really much at all. If he was an NFL player, you probably wouldn't even heard about it, but here was somebody who was black who was killed by a drunk driver, and nobody wants to talk about it. Interesting, but that's what we have these days. So now, of course, as normal, we have the regular Hillary Clinton babbling. She's not giving it up. I guarantee she's going to be making another run. She's ready to run for office again. And the thing about that is Clinton says global warming harms women the most because the crops they grow are burning up. So I guess men don't grow as many crops as women grow. I don't know even what to make of that. But it's gotten so bad for women that, it's hard being a woman in this world. They get silenced, pushed aside, ignored, paid less, denied care, called names, and a million other bad things. They have to work twice as hard to get paid 2/3 as much as the male counterparts to survive in the dog-eats-dog world. They climb the ladder that inevitably has a white man on top of it. And at best, the white man wants to look down your shirt, and at worst, he doesn't care if you were ever born and might accidentally step down hard with his fancy shiny shoes on the rung that your hand just happens to be holding on for dear life. So, of course, this is somewhat a skim of an article. But that being said, the women have to guard their bodies and their drinks at the bar, and they have to watch out for their calories. It's just silly. So here it is. This woman finally got so fed up with the male-dominated world around her and her inability to exert her authority that she devised a solution. And it was something that came natural. The first time it happens, she would say it wasn't deliberate. It was one of those days she had eaten some like fava beans for lunch, and the gas was just mounting in her intestines for hours while she pushed it back at work. She was sitting on a train on her way home that evening, and the little sphincter was like an engine that couldn't anymore, and a mighty fart gave way. She was mortified naturally. You know, not the daintiest of girls, not even close, but try to, not do things like burp and fart in public. So this girl quickly learned through her gaseous excretions were muted by the insanely high decibel of what the MTA subway car merely screeching along 3 stories underground. No one heard the fart. Not 10 seconds after the flatulence escaped her through a line of noxious odor that can only be described in the subway terms as more gross than unbathed homeless person and less gross than the actual feces, and crept along to the unassuming nostrils of the privileged man half sitting in her seat. Faster than the speed of the fart, this man sniffed ever so slightly and then shifted over his seat, removing the part of his thigh and butt that had been crossing the line into her territory. It was a miracle. This girl's become less butt shy. It's her new method that she tried over and over again. And now, ladies should know that this is a great, invaluable, and affordable tool at your disposal that you as a woman can use it well. When in doubt, fart it out. Or as Ralph, in stewardess school, Ralph Mouth, he said, when in doubt, whip it out. But in this case, when in doubt, gas it out. That's the world we live in, where it's no fair for a lady. Hillary Clinton, from this lady that was farting on the train, and now we know how bad it is for women. And yes, it is bad for women, I do agree in certain areas, but farting, I don't think that's going to make your life better. But to each their own. Coming up this weekend, February 10th, UFC 221 in Australia. Now, not a great card. I mean, it's really weird. Last card had about 3 fights in the beginning that should have been prelim fights, and then 2 championship fights, none that were that great, but, they were championship fights at least. And this card, 221, is not looking that great to me. I mean, personally, it's sad because I'm a big UFC fan. I love to do the parties and stuff, but this is just not a good card, in my opinion. I mean, there are some decent fighters and stuff, but nobody that's like, wow, this is who I want to see. Wow, this is super important. We'll start off, you have your pay-per-view event. You have Tyson Pedro, who's 6-1, and he's fighting against Saporbek Safarov, who's 8-1. Tyson Pedro, his last fight, he lost to Latifi, who's really strong. Pedro's a boxing, jiu-jitsu type, and he kicks a lot. Safarov is a wrestler. He's a hard puncher. His loss was to Gian Villante, decent opponent. And for, it's basically Pedro's kicks against Safarov's boxing. I think Pedro's going to learn from his last loss. I mean, he still competed, but he just kind of got outskilled by a veteran. And I see this one with Pedro's kicking, kind of keeping Safarov's boxing at bay, and he'll wear him down. I see Pedro, a 3-round unanimous decision. Second fight, you have Jake Matthews, and he's fighting Lee Jing Liang. Yeah, that's the name to say. So Matthews is 12-3, and Jing Liang is 14-4. Matthews pretty much striking, takedowns, cardio, keeping pressure on. Jing Liang, his wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and also Sanda, which is like a Sanchu, which is Chinese kickboxing. So that's kind of one thing that he has that's a unique talent. For Matthews, he's lost 2 out of his last 3. He's bounced around weight classes, went up, went back down now. And for Jing Liang, his 4-fight winning streak, he's looked better and better each fight. He's looked stronger, powerful, his striking looks good. And Matthews is kind of just, here, there, win-loss, kind of the last few fights. I see Jing Liang with the first round punches. He'll get the TKO. He's just too strong for Matthews. The next fight, you have Tia Tuivasa against Cyril Asker. And Tuivasa, actually, it's funny, he's married to Tyson Pedro, who's the first fighter in this card. He's married to his sister. And they also do a podcast together. Now, Tuivasa, is a stand-up, likes to stand up, hard punching. He's 8 now. Cyril Asker's 9-3, wrestling, ground game. I think one thing with Asker is like he has a decent chin, but he kind of just, I don't know if he uses it too much is the right way to say it, but he gets hit a lot. So with Tuivasa, he's definitely a KO specialist. Asker is a win one, lose one kind of guy, and he does get KO'd. And that being said, so for this matchup, Tuivasa is just going to be too much. It's going to be a first round TKO. He's looking strong. He hits hard, and Asker gets hit a lot, and he's not going to be able to take too many of these bombs that Tuivasa's got for him. So it's, like I said, first round TKO. In the co-main event, Mark Hunt, who's 13-11, goes against Curtis Blaydes. Now, Blaydes is 8-1. For Mark Hunt, power, heart. The guy can knock anybody out at any time. He's fought in K1. He's fought in Pride. I mean, the guy's probably had well over 50 professional fights. You name it, he's fought there. He's at this point of his career as a win-loss type of guy. Here and there, not too many streaks together. For Curtis Blaydes, he's got strength, aggression. It's a step up for Blaydes. His only other high-profile fight was when he fought Francis Ngannou, and he lost that fight. So for Blaydes, this is stepping up. I think Blaydes is going to be trying to take Hunt down repeatedly if he could stay away from his power and just wear him out. And then Blaydes can, kind of take over that fight. He'll wear Hunt out if he can avoid the major shots the first 2 rounds. Just keep on trying to take him down, take Hunt down, take Hunt down. I know Hunt's pretty decent at resisting the takedown, but after about the 3rd round, he'll get, going into the 3rd round, he's going to get tired of it, and he'll start getting desperate and, trying to swing for bigger bombs. I think that's when Blaydes can take over and actually get him down to the ground and just get the TKO on Hunt. And I see Blaydes winning that, like I said, 3rd round. In the main event, it's Yoel Romero, 12-2. He's fighting Luke Rockhold, who's 16-3. Yoel Romero, I mean, this guy's like a brick house. He's built wrestling, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Rockhold, kickboxer, jiu-jitsu, wrestling. Romero's last fight was July of last year. So he's been off, it's about 6-7 months, not too bad. But his last fight was a loss to Robert Whittaker, which, Whittaker just wore him out and took over that fight. Because at that time, Romero looked pretty unstoppable. I mean, we know Romero, he's going to gas. I mean, that's his weakness. But if he hits you early, he could be in big trouble. Luke Rockhold, for Rockhold, it's which Luke Rockhold comes out. Is it the guy who, dominated people? Or is it the guy who just loved himself so much he came out against Bisping and really had nothing to show, and he just ended up just looked sloppy, and he got hit, and Bisping knocked him out. I mean, the Rockhold before that won 6 out of his last 7 fights. So, I mean, which Rockhold's going to show up? I mean, one mistake you make in early rounds, and it could be lights out before Rockhold. Romero is very dangerous often and early. And I think the old Rockhold, though, will show up for this fight. He'll avoid it in the first 3 rounds because it's going to be a 5-round fight. Romero will slow down a little bit, and then in the 4th round, Rockhold will find a way to get him down and jump on his back and get a submission. So that's why I see Rockhold by submission in the 4th round, and that should set up the big match with Robert Whittaker whenever he comes back, who's currently away. He had a staph infection recently, so I know that's that. So that's pretty much the sports part of the show. We can talk some politics now. So here's an interesting one, a new little twist that I heard. FBI agents are pointing their collective finger at the Bureau of Brass for leaking sensitive intelligence to Bill Clinton to set up and stalk former, that's so weird, I wouldn't say stalk, but former Attorney General Loretta Lynch at right here, Sky Harbor Airport, in June of 2016. So they're saying that Lynch was taken aback and reportedly physically shaken by Clinton's seemingly impromptu June 27, 2016 visit just 1 week before a scheduled FBI interrogation of his wife, Hillary Clinton. While the meeting between President Clinton, former President Clinton, and Lynch is widely known, questions about how Clinton knew exactly where and when the Attorney General would be were grossly overlooked by the media. Who on the FBI breached and leaked classified information to the Clintons? Was it fired former Director James Comey, Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, or FBI General Counsel James Baker, who is believed to be under investigation for leaks? McCabe's wife is also in the mix because she did get $700,000 to run for office in Virginia from Governor Terry McAuliffe, a well-known Clinton family buddy, who is also under FBI investigation. So, troubling revelations. I don't know how accurate the article is. Did somebody leak this information to Clinton? I don't know, because to me, on one hand, if Lynch was so taken back by this, why did she even have the meeting? She could have told him, "I'm sorry, I'm not meeting with you. I'm going to be I'm investigating your wife. I'm in the middle of investigation. I can't meet with you. It would look bad no matter what." So I don't know which part of that is true, but I mean, it's just another little twist there. Lynch's original travel plans were scrubbed, and federal law enforcement sources said she first was scheduled to arrive in Phoenix in the morning on July 20th to give a speech, but those plans were changed to arrive on the 27th instead. So how did Clinton know about the schedule change, or did the FBI brass also change the schedule to accommodate the Clinton campaign and literally send Lynch into this ambush? Again, I don't know if I buy much of that, but it is interesting, something to think about, because, I mean, I'm thinking, like, if she was so taken back, she knew that was, one, it's unethical. But number two, that's really, really bad on the, just optics to, I don't know, let that happen and not be like, "No, dude, I'm sorry, I don't care who did what, I'm not meeting with you." I don't know. It's just, one of the many things that's still going unanswered. Now, of course, the big thing, they had the memo release, and it's not going to be the only memo. And I think it's funny, like, they're going to release this 10-page Democrat memo, which I think they bluffed and thought it wasn't going to be released, but it was voted unanimously for release. I'm sure Trump will look at it and they'll have to redact whatever. And then, of course, that'll be their scam. Once it comes out, you're going to hear these, they redacted it, so it really doesn't tell the truth. And because they're going to be embarrassed, there's not going to be anything there, because the first memo was 4 pages, just pretty much factual stuff that everybody knows about. Nothing surprising. There was nothing shocking. It was actually a little bit disappointing, the memo in general, because you thought it would have more. So it had the stuff pretty much everybody knew, confirmed it. Definitely, obviously bad things were being done. They spied on Trump before he was president. whatever excuses they want to use. They got a FISA warrant with ill information. They know there's a lot of things, and we'll go over it. We'll do a whole week in review on the rest of the show here. But, going back to Russia, there was a time where a lot needed to about Russia. And when, now I can't even think of her name, Sarah Palin, I was going to say the one where her kids always get in trouble, but Sarah Palin, and then even after that, Mittens Romney, who's as soft as could be, both of them said Russia was a problem. Russia was a problem. And all Obama did was laugh at them, which is funny because he knew at the time they were trying to hack in and whatever, corrupt the election, and Obama didn't care less and didn't do anything, right? So, but also in the case of the Russia collusion, most of the media got played like a Russian fiddle, and the rest were paid hitmen. As you know, and the stories will come out, is a lot of these members of the media got paid to run these stories. So they ran stories they knew weren't real, or even if they thought they were real, to accept money to run stories. I mean, just shows how low class these people are. They're not journalists. I mean, they're just, might as well be hookers, So Judicial Watch found evidence showing the Obama State Department under John Kerry gathered and sent its own dossier of classified info on Russia to a Democrat senator in order to undermine Trump. And so there'll be answers hopefully coming out about that soon. Of course, always. And also one of the things you did learn from the memo is Comey and McCabe delayed notifying Congress that on Anthony Weiner's laptop, emails were discovered. They knew there were thousands of emails related to Hillary's investigation, and they waited a whole month, literally right before the election, till they admitted about it. People are always saying that this person was against Hillary, that person was against Hillary. No, they kept her out of jail. And just Comey's whole thing alone, when you hear everything he said, she's guilty, she did a crime, she did many crimes, Hillary, but find her. We don't think anybody's going to find her guilty, so we're not going to charge her. That's not even his job. His job is to present the evidence, and then the charges go, and then that's the court's job. But I mean, that's funny. Here's a cute one. So you saw Joe Kennedy give one of the rebuttals to the State of the Union last week, and we've talked about, the Kennedy family modern day is just a disgrace. Pretty much after JFK, it's went down to the toilet. Ted Kennedy, one of the biggest scums. Everyone knows how I feel about him. Him and Joe Scarborough, the murderers. Joe Scarborough, right? He likes to be on TV and talk about Trump. What about the dead girl that was found in his office? He, just like Ted Kennedy, and remember the Skakels, who were cousins to Kennedy, always get away. Except Skakel finally got caught for his murder. But Joe Kennedy talking about no walls and freedom and everyone should be free. If you go look online, a picture of Joe Kennedy's house, he has the most gigantic wall. There's enough concrete there. Holy cow. If you ever need a concrete, go take a chunk out of Joe Kennedy's wall. Another one of these flaps that talks about freedom and everyone should be free to go wherever they want. We don't need a border wall. Yet, you go by their house, I'm sure a sniper would just pick you off before you even got there. It's sad. So as you see from the memos that are starting to come out, and more you'll see, the Russia collusion investigation that was based on collusion is the collusion of Obama and Hillary. And you'll see that, and Adam Schiff too, Shitty Schiff. He was always up. He got busted on a prank call from a Russian reporter who is not a good reporter. And she said, she and this guy, they were on the phone with Schiff and told him they had naked pictures of Donald Trump ready for him that they got. And this guy was more than happy to accept it. Like, what a sicko. But that's a shady shift. What do you expect from somebody like that? Now, we got to remember, we can't let this one slide. Another day is going by, but we have to remember that during the State of the Union, the rat, Luis Gutierrez, ran out of the State of the Union when people were chanting USA. It upset him that much that he had to leave. I mean, what a lowlife. We can never forget that guy. Anything he says is invalidated. Just, it's just pathetic. Now we had, it's funny, so we keep on having good jobs reports. And I know in the last few days everybody wants to talk about the stock market. It happens, it goes down, it goes up. That's why I'm not a huge fan of that. I mean, at the end of the day, the rich people, they get richer. They get out when it starts to go down, and they'll buy back at a cheap price, and it'll go up again for them because they have the money to do that. They can play around like that, and they have the advisors to fill them in on that stuff. But, Obama didn't have any answers for the jobs leaving America. And then he also said that Donald Trump didn't have those answers either. Remember that. He laughed and said, what's Donald Trump going to do? Wave that magic stick to get jobs back? To me, it's not a magic stick. It's just very simple policy. They're business friendly. Everybody wants to expand their business, but they're not going to do it to give away more than they get back. It's just not, But what can we expect from Obama, right? He's the same dude that actually said with a straight face, not a smidgen of corruption in his time in the White House. I mean, I don't know. If I did half of what he did, I would be in jail 6 times over. Just the IRS scandal alone, where they use their power against people. And here it is, the same thing with the FISA court. It's the same thing. And, we keep on hearing as well every day about Robert Mueller and Mueller time, and he's going to get Trump and whatnot. Here's a guy who was the FBI director when Jeffrey Epstein got nothing for molesting. It was probably 100 girls, but from what they had evidence on, 20 plus teenage girls. Jeffrey Epstein, a name that's familiar, a name that many Democrats hung out with, like Bill Clinton, and went to his island where they hooked up with underage girls. Well known, no secret, everybody knows. And that's Robert Mueller, Mr. Law and Order, Mr. Authority. I mean, child molesters should pay the price. But it's funny how this guy's supposed to be Mr. Law and Order, and the most, Jeffrey Epstein, easy conviction. He could have been in jail for life. He got nothing. Was it because he was a friend of the Clintons? Or was it because Robert Mueller's not Mr. Law and Justice? Or was it both? We got to ask ourselves those questions. But either way, it just shows Robert Mueller's soft, just like he was soft on terrorism when he was in charge of the FBI. And now they're talking about how Trump should go in and talk to this guy. Everybody knows the old saying, you can indict a ham sandwich. It's so easy when you have the documentation sitting there. This is where you were this day, this is where you were that day. And then somebody asks you, hey, what'd you do? November 3rd, 2016. And you're like, oh, I was home all night, I think. And like, you were home all night? Yep, I was. Really? It says here you went to McDonald's. Oh, that's perjury. You lied. Sorry. Why would anybody sit through that? Especially Donald Trump. He doesn't need to. I would tell Mueller, I'm not talking to you. You have something, charge me with it. It's as simple as that. And Mueller doesn't have anything, so there's nothing to charge him. And if he tried, he would lose and cry. His whole investigation has no credibility. And I guarantee you, he's not even going to get, Flynn's going to get out free. I bet Manafort's getting out free. I bet the only dope, Papadopoulos, might be the only one. And even his conviction, if he has any brains, he would challenge it. He'll be free because there's no real crimes there. Most of these had nothing to do with the Trump campaign. It's an overreach of everything. All these guys were before the Trump campaign. It's just they're so desperate to get anything. With all the wiretapping they did, you figure they would have something by now. Even he would say something that they would have leaked out to the media, and they have nothing. It's because there is nothing. Otherwise, they'd have a lot with all the inside information they get, not only from the wiretapping, but you know how many people would love to say anything they could if they had any evidence on Trump, even fellow Republicans. They wouldn't care. They'd throw him down the mine shaft if they could. And still nothing, you know. But, you know, and then I haven't heard much from Maxine Dirty Waters this week, you know. A member of the group called the Congressional Black Caucus, which excludes members of other races. Now, they're in existence to promote one race, yet they're calling everybody else a racist. Only in America we can have that in our government and let that go. I mean, just amazing. So now, we know about, like I talked about, all of Obama's abuses, IRS, you know, we know Fast and Furious. We've gone through them all. But the FISA warrant that was made possible by the Trump dossier, which McCabe at the time said was nothing of value, Obama knew it was fake. And they couldn't get the FISA warrant without it, yet they used it. And the Christopher Steele guy who actually wrote the dossier, he was banned from going into Russia, but yet somehow he had Russian intelligence, and he was banned for going into Russia because he made up stuff and did bad work like this, and they didn't want him there anymore. So now he supposedly got stuff from Russia, didn't check any of it. Then he added on stuff that he was given from the Clintons and from what other, you know, agency to put it in. Then he actually people write stories about what's in his dossier and use that as, well, look, here's two sources saying the same thing, when it was just him pushing out his fake agenda and had Yahoo News run the story. And that's what they used to get a FISA warrant. You know, if it happened to any of you guys, anybody else, you'd call for heads to roll, people being arrested. They spied for years, legally spied, opened up a fake investigation. You know, and McCabe, he did in fact testify under oath that there would not have been a FISA warrant if it wasn't for the dossier. It's recorded, it's fact. Nothing to argue about, nobody's making up anything. That's what happened. They turned down, the FISA court turned down an FBI request for a warrant to spy on the Trump campaign in June of 2017. And then Comey came back in October and with the phony dossier and secured the warrant. That was actually in 2016. I don't know why I'm saying 2017. Yeah, I'm a year off, but we know the deal. So, yeah. And so recently they delayed the Michael Flynn plea deal because they know FBI agents fabricated their summary notes. And that's probably the reason why McCabe stepped down. And in the next month or two, you'll have an IG report, which will reveal that, in fact, some of these documents were fabricated with the direction of Comey and others within the DOJ, FBI. McCabe probably had a hand in it. But, you know, and even after they requested these FISA warrants, they found no evidence of anything illegal. They still kept on trying to get renewals on them. No evidence was found, but the wiretaps kept on continue. I mean, that's the whole thing, is you get, with anybody, you'll get a certain amount of time to wiretap somebody, and you have to show the court to get a renewal. You get like 60 days to get a renewal. You have to show them something, that you're on something. You can't keep on wiretapping people. Now here you are, wiretapping at the time of campaign. So what were you trying to figure out? You know, they were trying to get enough information so he wouldn't become president. And now that Trump had become president, they turned it into, oh, well, we have this dossier and we have all this stuff he colluded with Russia. But at the end of it, even with all the spying and stuff they did, they still have no evidence of anything. There's no, you can say this and you can say that. You know, where is it? Where's the evidence? And that's exactly why I said Trump wouldn't even talk to Mueller. He'd be like, you got something, charge me. Good luck with it, buddy. Like, one, your credibility is worse than mine, and two, you have nothing. Sorry. But if you think I'm going to dig my own hole for my own grave, heck no. I ain't doing it. Sorry. Do your job. If you have the evidence, if you have the facts, do something. You don't, you know? But what else can we say about that? Not much, right? That's about that. Let's see. So, I mean, just referring to the memo specifically, the Nunes memo, and that's funny how the Democrats are calling for treason against Nunes. The memo had even less, like, you thought it would have some secret information in it or, you know, something, shock value. It really didn't. It was actually pretty vanilla, and it was what it was. I mean, you know, Diffusion GPS with their former British spy, Christopher Steele. It's just a political document, you know, opposition research. It was created for the DNC and Hillary Clinton. You know, it was, you know, they knew it was opposition research, and they didn't tell the court this because obviously the court would look down on it. Of course, if it's opposition research, it's not going to have anything positive, you know, and anybody could say whatever. They still used it to get the wiretap, like I said. You know, I mean, you know, in the summer of 2016, when Obama's DOJ had already opened a counterintelligence investigation into the Trump campaign, the fact that nothing had come from that investigation, you know, they were still wiretapping Carter Page, and then they still used all information they knew was false to get the FISA warrant to still wiretap. You know, and I'm sure we don't even know the extent of everything they tapped. I'm sure it was more than just Carter Page. I'm sure it was more than just Flynn. I'm sure it was, you know, the Trump Tower. It was Trump Tower and more other stuff, I'm sure. So, you know, like I said, not only did the FBI knowingly use a document from a partisan campaign to obtain a FISA warrant to spy on a competing campaign, the FBI knew that everything was just salacious and unverified. And James Comey had even admitted that everything in this document isn't verified or untrue from his own mouth, you know. And then, obviously, Christopher Steele told demoted DOJ official Bruce Orr that he was desperate for Donald Trump to not get elected and was passionate about him not being president. So Orr, who was part of the FBI's anti-Trump Russian investigation, was not only friendly with Steele, but Orr's wife, GPS, doing the opposition research. So here you have a guy who is part of the anti-Trump investigation, and his wife's working for the company that they're paying to do the research against Trump for the Clinton campaign. So, you know, I mean, it's just conflict of interest. Everything looks bad. Nothing can be verified. You know, and just couldn't even be honest with the court because they knew that they would not have got any FISA warrant to spy. But they still pushed it, you know, from James Comey to McCabe. They pushed it. And of course, there's no way that Mueller doesn't know this now. I'm sure he knew it then, and now he knows it too. You know, I mean, all the dishonesty that was under Comey, the man the media holds up as the, you know, the living saint, the man who is the law. And he not only oversaw some of those committing the abuses that I just talked about, he also leaked potentially classified information to news media in order to see a special prosecutor appointed against Trump, which his buddy, Deputy Rod Rosenstein, immediately did, and Comey, who is friends with Mueller. So it's just one big circle of, you know, dog poo, I guess we can say. I mean, there's not much else to say about that. It is what it is. So last weekend, we went to Monster Jam. We saw a pretty good show. So that was good. Oh yeah, I seen a funny thing on Twitter. It was like near the end of the Super Bowl, and it said it was from Hardee's, which out here is Carl's Jr.'s, but on most of the East Coast it's Hardee's. It said, "We're excited to serve everyone biscuits tomorrow morning at our Philadelphia location, but in order to do that, it needs to not be burnt down, please." I thought that was pretty clever and funny from Hardee's. I liked it. I thought it was great. Now, let's see here. What other snakes talk this week? We had Kamala Harris. There's so much at stake right now for our environment. It's going to take all of us raising our voices together to stand up for our national resources and public health. Good old Kamala Harris. She's like the young Maxine Waters, the joke that keeps on giving. Kamala Harris, who spent the first part of her career flat on her back, beginning with being Willie Brown's human mattress. But now she's going to stand up for the environment when she laid down most of her career. I don't know. We're just saying. And then, curiously, we talk about not a smidgen of corruption with Obama. Yet, not only did they try to upend the Second Amendment with the gun running in Mexico, and then, amongst all the other scandals, and then we had the IRS. Remember, the Obama administration spied on people like nobody had before. They turned what George Bush started, which was supposed to be, combat terrorism, and they blew that thing up. Obama had wiretapped over 20 reporters at the AP, their personal lines, their general lines, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, New York Times, right? 20 separate phone lines. And what, they tried to arrest one reporter too. That's what you had going on in the Obama administration. So don't think it's that far-fetched that he was involved with this illegal wiretapping, right? So now, here's one, California. We can't leave a week without them. People say how great it is. California's a leader, the sanctuary state, right? And you always hear people born in the country are 2 times more likely to commit a crime than an illegal would. And of course, you're matching up a population of 300 million to 20 million, maybe 10 to 20 million illegals here. And you're saying, look, they're more likely to, well, there's 300 million to 20 million. And the fact is, we have to deal with people that are already here. We don't have to bring in a problem of people that want to commit crimes. And that's why nobody's saying we can't have people come to the country. What we're saying is we want to know who they are. And it's hard to vet in some of these third world nations. You really think you're going to see somebody's legitimate ID and what their record is? They probably don't even keep records in half of these, asshole countries. So, but you got to look at California, and they're always the leader in this stuff. What Jerry Brown has done to his state. Illegal immigration, federal convictions. This year, 2015. So illegals were 18% of drug trafficking, 30% of kidnapping and hostage taking, 75% of drug possession, 10% of money laundering crimes, 21% of the national, of crimes against the nation, like national defense, and then 5% of the murders. And these are just convictions. This doesn't include all the people that they've hid in some of these sanctuary cities where you can never get to them, and they find a way to get back out. You think about how many people in the thousands that didn't need to be here committing crimes, and somehow that's supposed to be great for us. I don't know. I mean, it's just, we had, even this week in Arizona, we had as they say, a man arrested for gunning down an Arizona fire captain. Wasn't a man, it was an illegal. That's, even Fox News is in on the game. They always like to say a man or a person instead of illegal alien. Just say what it is. When it's a white guy, we say it's a white guy. When it's a black guy, we say it's a black guy. I mean, seriously. Then we have John McShane, of course, disgrace of Arizona. Here's a guy who's sick, so we'll try to be easy on him, but yet he's still yapping on Twitter or whatever. He's making the real immigration plan. Again, no border wall. If you think back when this guy ran against J.D. Hayward, he was all about the border wall, and he was friends with Sheriff Bebu, and he was going to help put the bricks of the wall himself up. And now, not a word about the wall. It's just, I know he's been here for a long time. I know he served the country. But we got to move on from this guy. He's just bad news. There's even word out that somehow he's either been in a room when Trump made some phone calls, or somehow he's got some access, and he doesn't keep quiet about it. An analysis of McCain's recent public statements by White House officials coupled with information from intelligence personnel working with the Trump administration paints, a disturbing picture of McCain. Officials believe that the senator had inside knowledge of a number of President Trump's telephone conversations, including at least one with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Even more alarming, officials believe McCain is secretly sharing the sensitive information with his colleagues and mainstream media journalists, to damage President Trump. And Trump has obviously been searching for the media rats in recent weeks, and White House aides are confident that they have outed one of the major leakers that plagued President Trump's early days in his presidency. Now, no surprise to me. And you notice since he's got sick, there's a lot less leaks. So that makes sense. I mean, I don't trust him at all, but that's me. I don't trust McCain at all. Sorry to say. I mean, I respected him when I first went out here. It sounded good, but as more time came by and you get to know him, just like Jeff Flake, you realize these guys are just, especially McCain, he's looking for the next camera. He'll do whatever it takes just to get on TV, to be heard. He has that much of a complex. But he's always been a showboater. You look at his military career, and it was the same way. This guy was a showboater. He didn't care whose life he put in danger. It was all about him. So now, the 5 questions we gotta, to wrap up, we're getting close to the end here. The 5 questions we gotta be on the lookout for, kind of, make sure we know what the new memo coming out and the new IG report that's going to be coming out soon is. What actually is in the FISA application? What was on there? Is it everything we believe it is? That's one thing. Did the FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, really say that no surveillance warrant would have been sought from the court without the dossier information? Because he knew it was false, and he's saying they wouldn't have sought one if they didn't have this. So then why did they go out and sort one? So it's a good question we need to keep our eye on. So now, did Sally Yates and Rod Rosenstein know that Orr's wife worked on the memo? And if so, why wouldn't they tell the court of, this lady worked on the memo, even though her husband, who was a a deputy attorney general who's now been demoted and now he's in HR. Like, how come these guys don't get fired? I mean, seriously, in any job, if you do something so egregious, you'd be fired. Not, oh, you're going to be in charge of HR. Like, obviously, this guy doesn't know much about human resources in the first place, but, I don't know. So, information about George Papadopoulos included. In the memo was that FBI official Peter Strzok to launch the investigation into Russian meddling and potential Trump campaign collusion. So it raises the question of what the information was and why was it included in the warrant application, the one they had for Carter Page. I mean, they were both volunteer advisors who joined the campaign as foreign policy advisors at the same time, but there's no evidence that they ever cooperated with each other or even had much contact. So it'd be interesting to know what was, interesting, So now what did Christopher Steele lie about, right? We know that he's trying to back away. He's supposed to be deposed in court for a lawsuit, and he wants no part of being deposed because obviously once you put down your statements in a deposition, it can be used against you at a later time. And it was a Chuck Grassley and even Lindsey Graham, which is shocking, have recommended that Steele be referred for a criminal investigation for lying to authorities. Now, Steele was actually working with the FBI and DOJ, and they let him go, which is funny because he used his work at a later time, but they let him go because he was telling stuff to the media that he wasn't supposed to be, and he knew that he wasn't supposed to be telling the media stuff, and that was going to make their investigation obviously worse, but this guy was just babbling on about it, so they had let him go. So, I mean, what did he lie about? I mean, I think the easier question is, what did he really tell the truth about? I mean, that's pretty much it, What did Christopher Steele tell the truth about? And when did he tell the truth about it? Because it probably wasn't much, I'm sorry to say. So obviously, big thing on people's minds, the stock market the last few days, down today. It kind of bounced back a little. Steve Wynn stepped down as the CEO of the resort company he founded. Hey, these guys, just, I don't know, you got to be smarter as a guy. You got to know that, you just got to know that you got to act like a human being to people. I don't understand when you have that much money and that much power, why you'd even bother. Keep your affairs and work totally separate. I mean, trust me, there's no need to mix them. When you have lots of money, there's never a shortage of women. So during the Super Bowl, Rob Gronkowski's house was burglarized. I guess there were 3 guns stolen from his house. So, hopefully they find out who did that and they take care of it. What do we have? The Olympics starting this week. That ought to be interesting. Ought to be interesting to see what kind of Shaun White, of course. Is he going to go again and get another gold medal? I mean, isn't it amazing to think about how successful he's been? Just over time. Just the amazingness. And this year he had to deal with being injured, and yet still he's going to come back and hopefully give a good showing at the Olympics. I'm sure this will probably be his last one. Hopefully he goes out well. And then, will Lindsey Vonn protest if she wins, right? Is she going to yell at Trump while she's on the winning podium? Or, I don't know. But there's a lot of good stories there. There's a lot of people who came from nothing that worked their way up to the Olympics. Hopefully it's fun, good times. Hopefully there's exciting things that, last a lifetime. It would be nice to have some great memories, and it's good for the country when we do well. It's good for the world when the games go off with no hitch and everything looks good and people are safe and everyone has a good time. And I think it's definitely a way to the Olympics can bring the world together in a way. I mean, so it doesn't hurt to be there and maybe people talk. Maybe they found some new friendships as far as not only athletes but world leaders hopefully go and see it. And, I mean, that's good. I think it's good for countries too, when you're a smaller country or an unsuccessful country. You see people have some success, you see some good stuff, maybe it pushes your people to push your government to do the right things, to treat people better. And, it's only good for your country when the people stand up for what's right. Let's see. So yeah, there's been a lot of stuff on illegals this week. Definitely, 44 pounds of cocaine, about $1.5 million seized in a drug raid in a Raleigh house. 2 to 3 people arrested, or on ICE detainers. And it's funny, John Kelly today was pretty interesting when he said that Trump will not, don't expect Trump to extend the March DACA deadline. One, they're not sure if legally he can. We're not sure if he has authority because that was kind of an illegal, it was created on their illegal grounds by Obama. He just decided to do what he wants. But it was interesting that Kelly was saying out of, we always heard the number was like 800,000, and as Trump was saying the other day, 1.8 million. And it was funny how, so Kelly was saying, I wonder, why these other people didn't apply. Is it because they're too lazy to get off their butts and fill out the paperwork, or, what's the reason why? I'm sure some of these people would be found out that they have criminal backgrounds and wouldn't be allowed to be DACA. So that's probably one of the reasons why. And for the Knicks, if their season couldn't get any worse, Porzingis out for the season, and he suffered a torn ACL. It's been hopeless for the Knicks for a while, and I don't know. I don't really see much good in the future for the Knicks. I mean, I think they need new ownership. Same owner that owns the New York Rangers, and that breaks my heart because the Rangers are they're wasting Lundqvist's career. I mean, they're going to be sellers this year. It made no sense to me over the summer. They just didn't get anybody. They really didn't get anybody. They had a bunch of holes in their team, and they signed Shattenkirk. That was about it, but they lost enough players where it almost made no difference, and you just see how poorly they're playing. They didn't address any of their needs. They didn't get more talent on the ice, and this is what you get. They didn't really have anybody young who was coming up that's going to blow the NHL away. They haven't drafted that great recently, and that's it. You have a mediocre team that's playing mediocre, and they might make the playoffs. They might not at this point. But, they might sell some of their players, get rid of Nash, and, it is what it is. I mean, but we're just wasting away Henrik Lundqvist's career. It's really sad. I mean, I don't know. I mean, could they make a comeback, sign some people next year, do some smart trades for some younger players this year and retool? I'm sure they could, kind of like the Yankees did, do it real quick, but I don't see that because the guys running this team, and it's just not impressive with the GM, Gordon. I mean, just, we haven't really done anything. Need a new coach. I mean, need a new GM, and definitely need a new owner, and that's the state of the New York Rangers. Sad but true. So that, my friends, ends another episode. We'll be back next Tuesday. I might have some surprise show sometime this week that I'll put up here. But have a safe and great week. And hopefully everybody stays safe and happy and make a lot of money.